Today we are going to be continuing our work on lesson 9.2, which is about equations and tables. You guys started learning about this previously, looking at how we can put equations and tables with inputs and outputs. Today we are going to continue working on some of these. So we want to be on the practice and homework page, which is on page 501. So I'm going to give you a second, make sure you guys are open to page 501 in your books. All right, so the first set of questions here says to use the equation to complete the table. So number one is already done for you. So the equation we have is y equals 6x. So we're doing our output equals 6 times the input value. So our x's are all in this column right here. So for each of these, we're going to use this equation to figure out what the output would be. So they did 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 5 is 30, and then 6 times 8 is 48. So we're going to do that same thing over here in question 2 and question 3. So in question 2, it says our equation is y equals x minus 7. And now it gives us the input values of 10, 15, and 20. I'm going to give you a second on your paper and fill out what those outputs would be using this equation. All right, let's check what you guys did. So our inputs, our first one is 10. So where this x is I'm going to put 10 and then minus 7. So 10 minus 7 is going to be 3. So our first output is 3. Our next input is 15, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to put 15 and then minus 7. And 15 minus 7 is 8, so our output would be 8. All right, our last one for this one says 20 minus 7, and 20 minus 7 is 13. So our output is 13. So each of these outputs we get by putting the input in for x. So we take these values and we put them where the x is. All right, our third one says y equals 3x plus 4. Go ahead and take a second in your books to solve this one. Now notice there's two different steps. There's 3 times x, and then we need to add 4. So you have two operations there to do. All right, so our first thing we're going to do is 3 times our first input, which is 3. So 3 times 3 plus 4. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 plus 4 equals 13. So our first output is 13. Now we're going to do the same thing, except this time we're going to put 4 in for x. So 3 times 4 plus 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. And then 12 plus 4 equals 16. So our output is 16. All right, the very last one we're going to do for this problem set is the 5. So we have 3 times 5 and then the plus 4. So 3 times 5 is 15. And then 15 plus 4 is 19. So our last input is 19. All right, let's go ahead and there's 2 more problems down here, which we have to write an equation for the relationship shown in the table and then find the unknown value in the table. So in the first one, they gave us the equation, and in these ones, we have to write the equation. So we need to look at how do we go from this first number, our x's, to our y's. So I'm going to think, how can I go from 2 to 16? So I can either add 14 or I can times it by 8. And now we don't know what the 3 is, so we can't use this one to check. So let's look at 4 to 32. How do I go from 4 to 32? So we could do times 8, because the plus 14 over here wouldn't work, because 4 plus 14 is 18. So times 8 times 8, and then 5 to 40 is again times 8. So we're taking this x value and we're timesing it by 8, and that gives us this bottom number, which is our y. So we would have y equals 8x. So that's the first part of this, which was to write the equation. And then the second part says to find the unknown value. So not only do we want to write our equation, but we need to figure out what this question mark is. Take a second and figure out what is that unknown value. Awesome. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to times this one by 8. And I'm going to think 3 times 8 is going to be 24. So that unknown value is 24. Go ahead and we're going to try number 5. Write your equation and then find the unknown value, and then we will check it when you're done. All right, so we need to look, and we are trying to figure out how I go from 18 to 9. So I can either divide it by 2 or minus 9. So now let's check this one, 20 to 10. Well, 20 divided by 2 is 10, but 20 minus 9 is not 10. So it's going to be that divided by 2. That's the one that works for both of those. And then 24 divided by 2 is also 12. So our equation to get to this bottom number, that y is going to equal the top number, x, divided by 2. All right, and then the second part of this is to find that unknown value. So we need to do 20 and then apply the rule, which is dividing by 2. And 22 divided by 2 is 11. Awesome. So we just kind of reviewed some of those problems that you guys worked on yesterday. We're going to go ahead and move on to the independent practice. Remember, if you get stuck, you can always go back and watch yesterday's video or this video again today, and it will help you remember what we did.